हमने 91 का एक्ट क्यों बनाया था? बनाने का मकसद क्या था कि इस तरह के ये जो चीजें हो रही हैं उसका खात्मा हो जाए, कॉन्फ्लिक्ट जितना खत्म हो जाए। आपने तो अब तो परपेचुअल लिटिगेशन चलता रहेगा।
The Varanasi court battle will now focus on the right to worship at the mosque, based on merit of arguments. The first round has gone to the Hindu side. With Anisha Mathur and Samarth Srivastav in Varanasi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, this Varanasi ruling is coming at a time when more and more cases with religious political overtones are finally getting space in courts across the country. The Supreme Court today posted hearing on more than 200 petitions, for example, against the Citizenship Amendment Act for October 31st. It's currently also hearing petitions filed against the Karnataka High Court's ban on wearing hijab on campus. And the Gyanvapi case will also ultimately end in the Supreme Court, which, remember, petitions have been filed challenging the constitutional validity of the Places of Worship Act that allowed for status quo to be maintained on religious monuments. But there are questions. As the court steps into these issues, should the Supreme Court step in to resolve contentious religious and political questions? Have tricky constitutional questions been kept pending for much too long? Can the court resolve political issues with independence? These are just some of the questions that we will raise tonight. Joining me now is Satyapal Jain, former Additional Solicitor General. He's also been a BJP MP. I'm also joined in a while by Dushyant Dave joins me. He joins me now, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court. Faizan Mustafa, Vice Chancellor NALSAR and one of the country's leading authorities on the subject, joins me. Vikas Singh, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court, will also join me. I'll come to each of you on different aspects of this. Dushyant Dave, why don't you start first? Because here you've got a situation where you've got a new Chief Justice who's come in, UU Lalit, and in the last 10 days, suddenly we are seeing a number of these tricky constitutional questions now finally making their way to constitution benches of the Supreme Court. The Places of Worship Act likely to be also heard. You've got the Citizenship Amendment Act finally being heard. Hijab cases being heard. Are these cases where the Supreme Court can really assert its independence in your view?
Well, Supreme Court is ultimately the final constitutional court and is the ultimate arbiter of all these disputes, whether they have religious connotations or they don't have. The Supreme Court must really go into it and decide, because ultimately people will accept the verdict of the Supreme Court as final rather than, the political decisions. I think Chief Justice Lalit is doing a good job in that regard, trying to fix matters before the Constitution bench. And, you must realize that most of these constitutional matters which are referred to the constitutional benches are on account of the, extraordinary importance of interpretation of the Constitution, or because they have been referred on account of conflict of various, benches of the lower strength, 3 judges benches, which have referred them to larger benches on account of various, constitutional and legal issues. So I think for a long, long time, these petitions have been pending in the Supreme Court. And it's nice that Chief Justice Lalit is taking them with alacrity and trying in, although he has a short tenure of 74 days, but he's definitely making a remarkable, I would say, progress in fixing these matters for hearing. And I think it's right that these matters should be fixed. They should be heard, and the Supreme Court should speak. Ultimately, that will be the final word. And it will put quietus to many issues, including, for example, as you said, on CAA, which is really, troubling a sizable section of the society, because a lot of people feel that they might be thrown out of this country. So I think these constitutional issues need to be decided. And I would say that I compliment Chief Justice Lalit for having taken the initiative.
Let me though come to the specific case for a moment to you, Faizan Mustafa, that has triggered off, in a way, the top story today. The fact is that in Varanasi, a lower court has said that a title suit or a suit allowing for worshipping rights is maintainable. Where does that fit in with the tricky constitutional question of the Places of Worship Act? which said that there would be status quo on all places of worship as of August 15, 1947. Now, can the court, which is good, the Supreme Court will be faced by this sooner or later. Today, it's only in a lower court, as we saw with Ayodhya. Eventually, these matters will reach the apex court. Is the court in a position, you believe, to pronounce on these tricky religious issues?
Rajdeep, I think there was not much of an option because, this matter reached the Supreme Court, and it was the Supreme Court which said, let the district judge of Varanasi decide the maintainability. Now, today's matter was whether there should be whether this case should be heard on merits. So all the objections which were made against the maintainability of this suit have been rejected. And what the district judge of the Varanasi has said, that the 1991 Act talks of prohibition of conversion of place of worship from one religious character to another religious character. These 5 petitioners, he is saying, have not claimed ownership. They are not saying convert this temple into a mosque. They are merely asking for their right of worship, which he says is the right to, a civil right which a civil court can enforce. Similarly, he is saying that what is prohibited is the conversion, but ascertainment of religious character of a place of worship is not prohibited. And Rajdeep, you will recall that Justice Chandrachud of the Supreme Court, when this matter had come few months back in the Supreme Court, had made similar observation that ascertainment is not prohibited.
But this could open up the floodgates, isn't it, Professor Mustafa? Today it is Varanasi. Today there are numerous religious disputes where different communities challenge the religious character of a place, and then you will come to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court now will be bound by, in a way, what they've decided in the Gyanvapi case, that you allow issues to be settled at the lower court, or allow the issue of the maintainability at least at the lower court over whether the right to worship exists or not.
No, that's right, Rajdeep. It is going to open the floodgate of litigation, because if ascertainment is permitted, that means 1991 Act would lose its efficacy. But if you go to this 26-page order of the Varanasi court, he is also saying that there is an act, Kashi Vishwanath Temple Act of 1983, which has already in a way declared it to be a temple, and therefore 91 Act is not attracted. Similarly, he is saying that this character of the property as Waqf property is a dispute, and merely if in the revenue record some property is mentioned as a Waqf property, it doesn't make it a Waqf property, it doesn't decide the title. So it's an interesting order, but you are right that many similar cases are now going to come up, and the original legislative intent of 91 Act to freeze the character of religious places on August 15, 1947 is going to be really compromised.
Satyapal Jain, today's court ruling that the suit filed by the Hindu worshippers not barred by the Places of Worship Act or the Waqf Act, these are complex issues which now are coming before the courts. Do you believe that the court is in the best position to adjudicate on it, given that there are religious sentiments on both sides? And we are a country, like it or not, with one of the largest Muslim populations in the world. We are also a country where there is a greater sense of Hindu assertion.
See, by and large, I agree with the analysis given by my very learned colleague, Mr. Dushyant Dave, and the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Mr. Mustafa, narrating the order passed by the trial court today in Varanasi. The trial court has given reasons for holding that the application filed by all these 5 Hindu gentlemen is maintainable. Let's not complicate the issue further. The court has only held today that it is maintainable. What will ultimately be the decision, whether they have a right, they don't have the right, and all that issues will be decided later on. And as Mr. Dushyant Dave said, pointed out, I totally agree with him. See, you can't keep issues pending for a very, very long time. More than 4 crore cases are pending in different courts in the country. That is a fact. That is the statement given by the Honorable Law Minister in Parliament of India. if the Honorable Supreme Court has started deciding these cases, which affect not only the case in the Supreme Court, but also the cases on the same point in different high courts. Therefore, I think it's a welcome step. So far as the Varanasi case is concerned, the court, as Mr. Mustafa was just explaining, has held in the order that they are not claiming the title, they are not claiming the ownership, and they are saying they had the right to worship till 1993. I feel that now, after the order of the trial court today, the opposite party has every right to go to the High Court, to maybe up to the Supreme Court, and that is the Indian judicial system: trial court, district court, High Court, and Supreme Court. Therefore, the earlier we decide such matters, because keeping them pending for a very, very long time also can create tension on both the sides. Second, last point will I say, whether it opens floodgates or it, when gates are always open, floods are also there. Let's be not afraid of floodgates. The courts are bound to decide the issues which are brought before them. That is their duty, constitutional duty. And the law laid down by the Supreme Court is the law of the land. Therefore, let us come to that conclusion. Let the Supreme Court ultimately will decide only when it comes to Supreme Court. And it might take years together. High Court, Supreme Court, and then Supreme Court also sometimes take years together to list the case for hearing. I think it's a welcome step. The court has decided the maintainability. Issue will go to High Court, Supreme Court.
You made the point.
Supreme Court and High Court are bound to decide such issues.
Okay, so you're saying even if it takes time, the courts are the best place to decide these issues. But you know, Dushyant Dave, today
unless just a second. See, either both of the parties come to a mutual agreement, which is unfortunately not possible. Maybe a Hindu-Muslim dispute, maybe even Muslim-Muslim dispute, maybe even a Hindu-Hindu temple dispute. There is a dispute going on among different sections of Jains about a Jain temple in Shikharji. So therefore, it's not a question of whether it's a dispute between Hindus and Muslims, or between Hindus and Hindus, or Shia Munnis, or other section of the Muslims. When the matter has come to court, I personally feel court must decide as early as possible.
Okay. Dushyant Dave, you've got a situation at the moment, hijab case, where you've got the Supreme Court hearing appeals against the Karnataka High Court ban now on hijab. You mentioned the Citizenship Amendment Act, 3-judge bench to hear over 20 pleas challenging CAA. You've got the Places of Worship Act 1991, 3-judge bench to hear pleas challenging the act itself. All of these cases are contentious politically. All of these cases have a religious dimension. Several of these cases pit, in at least these 3 instances, Hindus against Muslims. Should this be a worry that our political system is unable to resolve any of these issues? They come to the Supreme Court, or acts like the CAA are deemed anti-constitutional by one group, which then goes to the court, which then takes years to decide on them. Is it that the courts are finding it increasingly difficult to deal with these vexed issues without necessarily their independence being challenged?
Well, Rajdeep, I must say with a deep sense of regret that, time has come when perhaps we should expect the Muslim community to give up their claims in respect of every monument. We should now allow people to, offer prayers at Taj Mahal, maybe at Red Fort, and every other place in this country. Because what Aurangzeb did by force of his army, I think we are doing it by judicial force in this country, where we are allowing, the status quo to be changed. I am personally not very happy about what is happening, honestly speaking. But if that's what majority wants, let's respect the majority. The minority should give up all their rights and claims in respect of all these issues and surrender to the wishes of the majority. That's what we have come down to. Otherwise, fact of the matter is that the 1991 Act is a complete answer to reopening any one of these issues, be it Varanasi, Mathura, or anywhere else. And the judgment of the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court in Ayodhya case has squarely dealt with that. And Justice Chandrachud was also party to that. And they have said very categorically that in letter and spirit, now no other further investigation should take place. So I am really astonished that Justice Chandrachud made those observations, that investigation can be done. And now the learned judge, district judge, has said that my investigation shows that the Hindus have a better claim than the Muslims, and therefore Muslims have no right to object, and the suit is maintainable. I don't think we are I mean, honestly speaking, I am deeply religious. I'm a proud Hindu. I'm a proud Brahmin. But I don't think we need this in 2022. But if that's what majority wants, be it. Nothing can be done about it. We have to respect the wishes of the majority. I only hope that it doesn't really result in heartburning. It doesn't result in possible violence in future. One would really pray that some good sense will prevail. But all these cases, as Rajdeep, you rightly said, they do involve political overtones. I mean, but what can be done? These, unfortunately, for some reason or the other, the pot is, kept boiling. I mean, hijab, for example, I mean, till 2022, nobody bothered. There have been more than, 5 times that BJP governments have ruled Karnataka. And they never thought of bringing that kind of a ban in government colleges and schools. Why do they suddenly bring it up? So, I mean, these are all issues which are avoidable.
Right.
I have always said on television that Bharatiya Janata Party is invincible today. The opposition is unable to really, defeat them. Prime Minister enjoys an absolutely unparalleled, majority in this country and popularity. He claims to be a statesman, and yet he allows this kind of, small things to take place, which is totally polarizing the country, from within, vertically. It's not good for us. It's not good for future of India. But what can be done? We have to accept what is happening in the country.
You're in a way sounding a little helpless about what you see happening around you. Faizan Mustafa, you had a smile on your face when Dushyant was speaking in terms of the helplessness he expressed. But, are courts going to resolve these issues? Do you really believe that we've now reached a stage where these issues can't be reconciled by the two sides through interfaith harmony? Therefore, willy-nilly, each of these cases, and the Citizenship Amendment Act obviously stands on a different plane in a way because that is completely political more than any of these other issues. But is it not, do you believe the courts perforce have to step in? Is this, in a sense, reflective of the limitations of our system?
No, Rajdeep, I had written it before and I have spoken on this. Ideally, we should take lessons from the past experience. So we opted for litigation in Ayodhya and ultimately one party won. So it is better in disputes of this kind that the two faith communities, ideally the local leaders of the two faith communities, sit together and find an out-of-box solution. On different airports, you have multi-faith prayer rooms. Can't we create some space for prayer by these 5 petitioners, which they have claimed they have been doing prior to 1993? So some kind of accommodation is to be done. Now, what happens the moment I talk of accommodation, as Dushyant sir is saying, it would be treated a surrender by the minority community. And then some of the leaders of the minority community would say that now you have adopted Hindutva and you are going the majoritarian way. If we need to get to some amicable outside the court solution locally, then such a solution would ensure that both the parties win, both the parties get something. Mohan Bhagwatji has said that these 3 places have a special significance. Had the Muslim community and their leadership thought of it, that about these 3 places, they will show some large-heartedness, maybe about other disputes, some conducive environment of dialogue would have, been initiated and created. And that has not been done. But as far as courts are concerned, Rajdeep, there is hardly any option. We have been criticizing earlier chief justices for not listing the constitutional matters. Now those matters are listed and we are saying court is hyperactive.
No, I'm not. I'm using hyperactive. I'm using hyperactive in a positive sense here. Chief Justice UU Lalit, by taking up these contentious constitutional issues, putting them before constitutional benches, is perhaps doing...
But that is what the job of a Chief Justice is all about.
Okay, that's a good point to turn to Vikas Singh, because Vikas Singh, you've been president with the Supreme Court Bar Association. Are we finally seeing many of the contentious issues that have been hanging fire for a very long time finally getting before constitution benches? And is that a positive side? Do you believe that therefore the court must step in and step in faster on these constitutional issues that are kept pending for years otherwise?
So Rajdeep, if you will go back to, not very far back, say about 2-3 years back when this Babri Masjid judgment came, you will recall that there were several attempts to try and resolve that issue without a court judgment. And in fact, the bench of Justice Gogoi also tried to mediate, and they appointed very experienced mediators for that purpose. But ultimately, the whole mediation purpose did not work out. So courts are meant to be doing ultimately this if mediation doesn't work out. And these are tough decisions to be taken. And ultimately, if a decision is taken by court, then nobody questions that decision. And finally, there is no unrest, there is no heartburning. And the decision then gets implemented in a country like India, which is, governed by the rule of law, and there is a respect for the rule of law. So I don't see why these contentious issues, if they are not being able to be resolved, ideally it should be resolved, by mutual discussion. But if it is not, and it is not likely to be resolved by mutual discussion, and that's our past experience, I think that's a very healthy sign that the people definitely have faith in the system and they respect a judgment of the court. So that's the right way forward. And if these are issues which have been pending in the court for a very long period of time, and if the Chief Justice of India is trying to get them listed expeditiously, it's salutary, and the bar is extremely happy that not only these matters, but even other matters which have been hanging fire for years together. In fact, fresh matters were not being listed in the tenure of the last Chief Justice. All those matters are now getting listed. So that's something which is a good way forward. Pendency will come down. Generally people who are waiting for getting justice from the court, they will at least have a say and they will have some hearing on whatever is their issue. And if the court is to decide in their favor, it will go and be decided. So I am very positive that that's the right way forward on all issues which can't be resolved outside court.
But it also shows in a way the limitation of mediation, Satyapal Jain. You've been both a politician and a lawyer. It seems to me that the politicians who we thought could actually assist in resolving issues have only allowed the pot, have only kept the pot boiling. And therefore, the court is being forced almost to step in as a reflection of the failure of our politicians to actually bring communities together in many of these cases.
I think it will be a very simple analysis to say that politicians have failed to resolve this issue with different communities. The community leaders have their own politics. The community leaders have all their own agenda, their own point of view. So it's not that easy that you call the community leader and they will agree to a solution. As I said in the earlier part, it's not a dispute between Hindu and Muslims. Even among the Hindus, there are disputes between different sections. Even among the Christians, there are disputes about the churches. Even among the Radha Swami, Satsang, Nirankaris, Akalis, etc., there are disputes. There is a dispute, I said earlier, over a Jain temple between two different sections of the Jain community. So as Mr. Vikas Singh rightly pointed out, either you sort out these issues by amicable settlement, and in most of the cases, if not in some of the cases, politicians are not involved at all. It is the dispute between the leadership of the particular community.
Sure.
So in such cases, either you resolve it by amicable solution settlement, and if you do not do it, then court is the only alternative. Court is the only solution. Don't forget, Ayodhya dispute, the civil suit was filed in 1948 for the first time in Faizabad. 48. 70 years it took, right from trial court to the district, high court and Supreme Court to come to a final settlement. And I totally agree. People of this country have full faith in the judicial system. Whatever the tempers,
that's the
whatever
question.
the issues, but once the Supreme Court decide, everybody will accept it.
Let me get you all on that. Vikas Singh, do you really believe that the court is fully independent in cases like these contentious cases with strong political overtones? Is the court fully independent, or are there political pressures?
Well, I don't know of any political pressure which you are trying to suggest. There may be, I'm sure there has always been some kind of influence on courts in this country, on the higher judiciary, and we are all aware of these kind of pressures working. And it's not that it is happening for the first time now. This has been there even in the Congress regime. And that is all, these are all grapevine, and these are all, what we hear, the whispers in the corridor. So really, it's not proper for me to comment on such kind of, statements that you want me to say. But I can tell you one thing. that the country so far, at least so far, the country believes in the rule of law. We have respect for the law, and whatever the Supreme Court decides is finally respected. Otherwise, if you would see the judgment that came in Ayodhya, why was there no, bloodshed, or why was there no, communal disharmony? Why was there no protest and by any section of the society saying that this judgment is not right or wrong for some XYZ reason? Nothing of that sort happened, and in fact, judgment is being implemented, and the work is in fact going on for constructing a temple there at site. So I mean, to my knowledge, if there is some hidden hand working here and there, Rajdeep, you will be better knowing that than me.
No, I only go, sir. I only go by the whispers that I hear from various in the legal corridors.
Your whispers may be more credible than the whispers that I hear. That's
no. I would get into very dangerous territory if I went any further on that. But Dushyant Dave, do you go along with that the judiciary is firmly independent in these very politically sensitive matters?
Well, yes and no. Judges have their own ideology. Judges have their own predilections. Judges have their own upbringing. So I think everything, is judges don't live in ivory tower exactly. So it's bound to impact their judgments. I mean, it's understandable. I mean, I have no grievance about that. One has to accept it. The fact of the matter is that, Supreme Court is the final word. And once it speaks, people should accept it. What is really bothering me is that I don't know. I mean, how far are we going to go? To what extent? I mean, we are opening mosque after mosque. I know of a place, I think a Muslim place of worship in Ahmedabad, which is now sought to be reopened, where even Home Minister went, and they are trying to find out whether at some stage it belonged to the Hindus or not. Right. All these issues, I don't know. I mean, it's good. Mr. Jain is not right. These are purely political issues. BJP has come into existence thanks to Rath Yatra. And I mean, they are really capitalizing on it by raking up one, issue after the other, which is targeting, I would say, minority community, which is not good. Prime Minister says, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. We don't need this. He has a development, agenda. We don't need religion as an agenda. So my views are very clear.
Okay.
We are really embarking upon an extremely dangerous path. Vikas Singh may be right in saying that people didn't speak. But you take a survey of the minority community today, you will find 99% people are upset about the Ayodhya verdict. And I have met large number of Muslims who are very, very, sad about what is happening in the country. They may not speak up. Because after 2002 riots in Gujarat and what's happening in UP today, the minorities are at the receiving end. So they won't speak up. Fair enough. But this is the warning Sardar Patel gave as chairman of the minority committee in the Constituent Assembly. And so did Ambedkar. That, it's for the majority community to understand how minority would feel and, make them assuage their feelings, step into their shoes and try and see that, they are really looked after by the majority community. The burden is on us, both of them said. We are failing in that burden.
Yes, Satyapal Jain, 30 seconds. I know you were pushing for a response.
I make two comments. Number one, Mr. Dave, point out a single judgment of the Supreme Court or High Court where all sections of the society are happy. Against any verdict, some people are happy, some people are unhappy. Number two, independence of judiciary. Two examples. Number one, a single judge of the Allahabad High Court set aside the election of the sitting Prime Minister of India, which is rare among the whole world.
That was 1975, long time ago.
The Judicial Appointment Commission Act was passed by the Parliament unanimously. Still, it was set aside by 4-1 judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court. What more proof do we need of the independence of the judiciary?
Okay, let me leave it there. We can argue on both those judgments on another time. But clearly, in a sense, the Supreme Court is having to deal with very, very difficult, complex issues when it comes to religion and politics in particular. Is the court the best space to do it? Does it reflect a failure of our politics? Well, those are questions that will need to be answered. I appreciate my guests joining me here on the news today on our top talking point. Let me turn from there to one of the political stories, because every day it appears that Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra is enmeshed in some controversy or the other. Today, the Congress went on the front foot and launched an attack on Union Minister Smriti Irani, who was caught out because she put out remarks against Rahul Gandhi that turned out to be false. Take a look at just exactly how the Congress today fact-checked the union minister.
कम से कम इतनी निर्लज्जता तो ना दिखाते, स्वामी विवेकानंद जी को प्रणाम कर कर तो बताते.
The BJP has trained its guns on Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra, firing fresh salvos every day. One particular strike by Union Minister Smriti Irani, however, has missed the mark by a long way. On Saturday, Smriti Irani accused Rahul Gandhi of ignoring Swami Vivekananda as he kick-started his Bharat Jodo Yatra from Kanyakumari, where the Vivekananda Rock is situated.
आप यात्रा कर रहे हैं भारत को जोड़ने की. अरे अगर कन्याकुमारी से चले तो कम से कम इतनी निर्लज्जता तो ना दिखाते, स्वामी विवेकानंद जी को प्रणाम कर कर तो बताते. लेकिन वो भी राहुल गांधी को स्वीकार नहीं, क्योंकि स्वामी विवेकानंद राष्ट्र संत हैं, गांधी खानदान के सदस्य नहीं.
The statement made by Smriti Irani at an event to mark the BJP's 3 years in office in Karnataka was picked up by the Congress. The party shared videos of Rahul Gandhi paying homage to Swami Vivekananda in Kanyakumari to counter Smriti Irani.
तो हमने दिखाया है 7 तारीख 3 बजे को राहुल गांधी जी कहां थे, किनके स्मारक में थे. उसका जवाब स्मृति ईरानी दे. अगर उनको नया चश्मा चाहिए, मैं वो चश्मा देने के लिए तैयार हूं.
Several Congress leaders also took to Twitter, lashing out at Smriti Irani over her claims. Former Madhya Pradesh Chief Minister Digvijaya Singh sought an apology from the Union Minister. The BJP has maintained silence on the face-off. Bureau Report, India Today.
To the top story from the world of sport. India's squad for the T20 World Cup was announced today. Rohit Sharma will lead a 15-member squad, which is mostly on expected lines. Dinesh Karthik, Rishabh Pant both making the cut. So has R. Ashwin, who's been chosen ahead of young leg spinner Ravi Bishnoi. Standby players named include Mohammad Shami, Deepak Chair, Bishnoi and Shreyas Iyer. Jasprit Bumrah too makes a comeback along with Harshal Patel. Okay, joining us now is legend Sunil Gavaskar to give us his views. Mr. Gavaskar, as you look at the team, any surprises? Is there someone you would have had who is not in this team?
No real surprises. I think this is a very good selection. They've covered all the bases, and I do believe that Kohli's century as an opening batsman has given them the option of going in with another batsman, somebody like a Deepak Huda, an extra batsman. So yes, I think this looks like a very, very good team.
So they have picked a third opener, but they've also put in 3 spinners in the team. Are you okay with that on Australian tracks, Ashwin, Aksar and Chahal? Or would you have picked, as some were suggesting, an extra seamer like Mohammad Shami on Australian wickets?
This is a good side. This is a good side. I think on Australian pitches, the spinners will get a little extra bounce. They might not get the kind of turn that they get in the subcontinent, but they'll certainly get a lot more bounce. The wrist spinners in particular, Chahal will be able to get turn as well as bounce. And the Australian boundaries are huge boundaries, big boundaries. So it won't be easy to hit the big sixes. All in all, I think the selection committee has done a very good job.
You know, the one big change, of course, from the Asia Cup is the return of Jasprit Bumrah, hopefully fully fit. Potential linchpin. Would you agree that he, along with Hardik Pandya, the kind of players that can make a difference in a T20 tournament? And Harshal Patel also coming
even
back.
Harshal Patel.
Yes.
In the bowling lineup with Harshal Patel and Jasprit Bumrah back in the team, India will be that much more confident about defending totals. Where our problem in the Asia Cup was defending totals. And so therefore, with these two back in the team, back in the playing 11, back in the mix, I do believe that India will be capable of defending small totals as well. Of course, luck has got to go your way. That's part of this game. But otherwise, I think this is a team, like I said, if luck goes its way, they can bring the cup back.
Rishabh Pant or Dinesh Karthik, who would be your first choice for wicket-keeper batsman in this team?
My first choice would be Rishabh Pant. Rishabh Pant would be my first choice wicketkeeper. There's Dinesh Karthik as well. Depending on the opposition, depending on the size of the boundaries, depending on the pitch, depending on the overhead conditions, I think you would want to play both of them in the 11, or maybe just one of them. But I think that depends on the situation and on a given day.
But as we saw, Mr. Gavaskar, in the Asia Cup, Sri Lanka, without any major stars, won the tournament. Is there a lesson somewhere? Maybe keep the expectations and the pressure a little lower when the team goes into these big tournaments rather than keep the hype going, especially around India and Pakistan.
They were under the radar, weren't they? Because everything about the Asia Cup, everybody was talking only India, Pakistan, India, Pakistan, India, Pakistan, as if these are the only two teams. And when you look at the fact that Sri Lanka has won this for the 6th time, that is second only to India, it does tell you that, when we talk about prospects, who's likely to get in the finals, you mustn't ignore Sri Lanka. And that's a nice tight slap that Sri Lankans have given to all those who are trying to say it's going to be an India-Pakistan finals.
Is that part of the problem, though? Even in the World T20, we now play Pakistan right at the very outset. There'll be a lot of hype around that. Is there a message you're sending out that you have to actually win the cup, not just win against Pakistan?
Absolutely. I mean, that should be the whole aim, is not just to win one match, but to win the cup. And obviously, beating Pakistan would be a great step forward, because that gives you a lot of confidence. And then obviously you can tackle the other teams as well. But no, I think you've got to win 4 out of the 5 matches that you've got to play, because that will help you to get into the knockout stages.
You were the one captain who won a global one-day tournament in Australia, 1985, champion of champions, or world championship as it was called. What does it take to win in Australia? Extra size, high, big grounds. What's the key to winning in Australia?
I think the key really is to get off to good starts. So if you look at that win in 1985, our 2 openers, Srikanth and Shastri, gave us good starts in just about every game. Our new ball bowlers enjoyed the extra bounce on the Australian surfaces and got the early wickets. So really the platforms for both the batting as well as bowling were given by the bowlers. We had an outstanding fielding unit, absolutely top class. There wasn't anybody that you needed to hide. We had fielders on the boundary who were saving the boundaries, hurling the ball back in. And we had in Shivram Krishnan a leg spinner who bowled extraordinarily well. I think, without trying to bang my own drum, probably I was the first captain who picked a leg spinner in a limited overs competition, because I was confident that Shivram Krishnan, with his talent, would be able to spin the ball, get the bounce. And even if he bowled a bad ball, the long Australian boundary, that time the fence was the boundary. Unlike now, when the boundary will be about 8 to 10 yards or 10 meters inside, it was a full boundary. And that he would get wickets, people trying to hit him would be caught in the deep. And that's exactly what happened.
Just one more question. You think this team, therefore, has a good chance to win this tournament, go all the way? I'm personally picking Hardik Pandya as the person who could make all the difference between winning the cup or not. You agree?
Yes, I think he can. Yes, I think he could possibly do what Ravi Shastri did in 1985, where, Ravi was the outstanding performer with both bat and ball in the entire tournament, took some good catches as well. So yes, Hardik Pandya, capable of doing that. And don't forget, at mid-off, he effects some electrifying runouts as well, direct hits at the bowler's end, catching the batsman inches short. So it's not just the batting and the bowling aspect of Hardik Pandya, but the fielding aspect that could turn the game India's way. I won't be surprised if he's like Ravi Shastri was in 1985, if he's like the champion of champions.
Well, if you remember, Ravi Shastri got his Audi at the time, 1985. What car will Hardik get? The game has changed since then. Thanks very much, Sunil Gavaskar, for joining us. Hopefully, positively, we'll have a victory in the T20 World Cup. Let's take a break. On the other side, you got to watch this. The remarkable story of a doctor from Bengaluru. Why is he our Good News Today story? We'll tell you on the other side. You're watching the News Today. News without the noise.
Hey, I noticed something new. You started using a new body lotion. Funny.
I'm so sorry for the delay. I was on another call. It just kept going on.
No, Papa. You were in a steam bath.
Steam bath? At home?
Two steam bath he takes.
Go to your homework.
It's 7:20 already. The kickoff's in 5 minutes. Get all the boys. We have the entire place to ourselves, man. Not working?
Of course it is. But I don't want you guys to be using this bathroom. So use the other one.
It's 7:20 already. The kickoff's in 5 minutes. Get all the boys. We have the entire place to ourselves, man. Not working?
Of course it is. But I don't want you guys to be using this bathroom. So use the other one.
To our good news today story, a doctor in Bengaluru has become an internet sensation. This after he ran 3 kilometers to the hospital because of a traffic jam to perform a surgery. On August 30th, Dr. Govind Nandakumar was scheduled to perform a surgery on a middle-aged woman. He got stuck in Bengaluru's traffic. Without thinking twice, he left his car, ran to the hospital. The video of him running to the hospital to beat the traffic and reach the hospital to do the surgery has now gone viral. And we spoke a short while ago to Dr. Nandakumar, and I began by asking him, 30th August, you got stuck in the traffic while you were on your way to perform a scheduled surgery. You run out of your car 3 kilometers away. You want to tell us what made you do that day? What happened?
Yeah, so usually I just leave from home and I sometimes go to the gym on the way and then travel to Sarjapur Manipal Hospital on that particular day, Tuesdays. And usually the last 3 kilometers of the stretch, it takes me about 5-10 minutes. But on this particular day, there was a complete jam. There was no opportunity to even move either way. When I looked up Google Maps, it suggested that the commute will be 45 minutes. But the scary part was it wasn't even changing. It was staying at 45 minutes every 10 minutes. So at that point, I decided that I had to either abandon the surgery or do something different to get the surgery done. The place where I lived in before, I used to walk to work routinely. So I said, let me just get out and see if there's a way I can just walk over or run over. And that's when I said, okay, let me run over and save time.
You said that distance normally is covered in 10 minutes by car. How much did it take you to run? How long did it take you running to reach the hospital?
Yeah, it took me about 15 to 17 minutes or so, somewhere in that range, to reach the hospital running. And my car and driver, so thankfully I had a driver, so it took him almost 2.5 hours to reach the hospital.
My God. Spot. 2.5 hours while you took 20 minutes. Remarkable. What was the surgery you had to perform, doctor, that made it so crucial that you reached there on time? Doctor?
So the thing is that it was a gallbladder surgery that we take out with a laparoscope. We take out the gallbladder when it's infected or it has burst open or something like that. And the patient was admitted and unwell and in pain and was without food for the sake of the surgery. Now, this wasn't, I cannot say that it was a highly emergent surgery. In surgery, we say there's elective, urgent, and emergent. And this I would call as urgent surgery, not emergent, because, it had to be done, but it would have been uncomfortable for the patient because she had significant amount of pain to delay it. And also there were several other patients waiting that day. So it would have caused a chain reaction. So in the interest of all of that, I said it's better to save time and get the surgery done on time.
Whatever else, how is the patient at the moment?
Patient was good and thankfully recovered well and went home safely.
That's good to hear. Let me just say you are an internet sensation. You also seem remarkably fit. This act of yours won you many admirers, Doctor. So nice speaking to you. And not only have you done, you've in a way become a promotional for a fitness video. I don't think I could run 3 kilometers in 15 minutes, I'm afraid, Doctor. So all credit to you for doing what you did.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Dr. Nandakumar, as I said, in this great country, we find all kinds of heroes at all kinds of times. And Bengaluru, tough city when it comes to traffic and waterlogging. So what do? You just run. On that note, I've got to run away from the studio. Good night. Goodbye. Jai Hind, Shubhratri. Namaskar.
I don't read the news. I read between the lines to tell you the true version of events, the true story of our times.
To document grief, the toughest assignment for any journalist to be.
From those who matter.
Women politicians going to stick up for each other.
Of those who should matter. I document the truth. I don't distort the truth. I don't glamorize the truth. I don't gloss over the truth.
The ghosts of India's contentious medieval history have come knocking again.
I hustle for the truth. On the ground, in the newsroom, in the studio. I don't try to grab eyeballs.
I inform you to make you see the point.
To the Point with Preeti Chaudhary. At these times, only on India Today.
In association with Bharti AXA Life Insurance. Do the smart thing. Hetic Fittings. Make your furniture work beautifully. LIC. हर पल आपके साथ. Congress's shots on fire salvo. Free India from hate. Attack at RSS. BJP hits back after Congress fires shots.
ये भारत जोड़ो आंदोलन नहीं है, ये भारत तोड़ो और आग जलाओ आंदोलन है. The Congress party should immediately take down this picture.
BJP's Bharat Jalao counter at Congress.
आगजनी का दृश्य है ये. This is nothing but instigating people for violence.
Shots fired in Congress RSS war. Top focus on India first.
It's now a no-holds-barred war between the Congress and the BJP over these images that we are putting out on your television screens of khaki shots on fire. Now, this was a picture that was tweeted by the Congress party as part of Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra. BJP says the Congress is actually inciting people, and not just in Kerala, for violence against RSS workers, many of whom have been killed in Kerala. Congress says this is the BJP that's trying to divert attention from the real issues that Rahul Gandhi is raising, whether it's inflation or jobs. But is politics between the ruling BJP and opposition Congress reduced to prices of t-shirt and burning khaki shots? And is burning shots actually inciting people? Is it a call to violence? I'm Gaurav Sawant. We debate. But as always, let's get started with the headlines on India First. Big win for the Hindu side in the Gyanvapi legal battle. Varanasi court admits the Hindu plea, says the plea is maintainable. The next hearing is now on the 22nd of September. Uttar Pradesh government begins survey of illegal madrasas in the state. Report to be submitted by the 25th of October. Politics escalates. AIMIM demands survey of mutts and ashrams too. Ministry of Home Affairs likely to order Central Bureau of Investigation probe in the murder of Sonali Fogart. This after both the Goa and the Haryana governments make a recommendation for CBI probe. The Economic Offences Wing of the Delhi Police issued a second set of summons to actor Jacqueline Fernandez. The actor had skipped summons today in connection with the 200 crore rupee Sukesh Chandrasekhar con scandal. India's squad of 15 players for upcoming World Cup T20 announced. Jasprit Bumrah returns after an injury. Shami, Shreyas, Ravi Bishnoi and Deepak Chahar named standby players.